How's it, Oaks? This is Tiki-Boxx, and welcome to my first episode of Vidja, the series where I will show you some game footage of a video game that I've been playing, along with some commentary in my sexy voice of why I love the game. In this episode, I'm going to cover Quake live. You'll be watching some footage I recorded. Unfortunately, I played a game mode called Clan Arena, which means that you won't witness the full glory that is Quake, but I will get into the game modes later on. But in this specific game mode, Clan Arena, there are two teams, red and blue, and the gameplay is separated into rounds. If you die, you have to wait till the end of the round before you can play again. Each team has to eliminate the enemy team to win the round. Just some background into what you'll be watching in this video. Now, I want to start off with a bit of history. I've been playing Quake since Quake 1. I'm only 26 years old at the moment, so I'm too young to have experienced Doom when it first came out, but I was there when Quake launched. Back then in South Africa, 1996, when Quake was released, not many people had internet. I remember my parents were the only ones among their friend group that had internet, and they were the only ones that had an email address among the people that they knew. It sounds silly nowadays, but that was the case back then. My dad and my godfather, back in those days, ran a business where they would distribute shareware. Now, for those of you who don't know what shareware is, it's a kind of free-to-play demo version of a game that you could download for free. But since internet was such a rare and expensive luxury in South Africa back then, my dad and my godfather made a business out of copying shareware games onto 3.5-inch stiffy discs and distributing them to computer stores. One store in particular was Zapp's over in the Randburg waterfront. I don't know how many of you will remember the Randburg waterfront and Zapp's. It was located in Johannesburg, Randburg, but this was where I first encountered Quake. Every time my dad took me to Zapp's to distribute their software, the store owner would load up Quake on one of their machines, and I would go nuts. Oh yes, did I forget to mention that Zapp's at that time was still set up in the flea market? Yeah, that's how niche computer games were back then. This store was set up in a flea market. But they still had a few PCs set up over LAN where people could come over and challenge each other to a death match or, whatever competitive game they would have. And the store owner, I remember his name was Wayne. He would load up Quake for me, and I would play it for hours, or at least it seemed like hours. I was only 6 years old back then. Anyway, long story short, I was hooked to Quake, even at the young age of 6 or 7 back then. Thereafter, Quake 2 was released in 1997, and I played the hell out of that game. Once my parents got a computer that was powerful enough to run it. Since my father and his BFF, my godfather, were so into gaming, I started playing Quake 3 Arena almost as soon as it came out in 1999. I was 9 years old at the time, and I played the shit out of Quake 3 Arena, mostly against bots, but sometimes when I was lucky enough to find somebody else to play with, it was mostly my dad. My dad and I would sometimes face off in Quake 3 Arena, but I would just play the hell out of Quake 3 Arena at any chance I got. I remember even later on as a teenager, when I was about 13, 14, I considered going pro and trying to make a living out of playing this game. Back then I looked up to gaming pro Fatality. Does anybody remember Fatality? He was probably one of the earliest big-time gaming professionals. He was huge. Everybody in the gaming scene knew who Fatality was. He made his career playing Quake. Or at least playing Quake 3 Arena. That's where he really started getting big, by playing Quake 3 Arena. So why couldn't I? Well, he was 9 years older than me. He is 9 years older than me, and I had high school things to worry about, so my professional Quake career never really took off. Fast forward to today, 20 years after the release of the original Quake and 17 years after the release of Quake 3 Arena, and I still love this game. Today, it is best enjoyed in the form you see before you, and that is Quake Live. And for a game that is, at its core, 17 years old, it is still one of the best competitive games out there. Even in South Africa, servers are populated almost every single night. And by the way, big ups to qlcreeper.co.za in Stellenbosch for keeping these local servers alive. I love you, for real. qlkeepers.co.za, if you log into Quake Live, those are the servers that are populated all the time. So thank you so much for you guys in Stellenbosch. Now, as you can see by the gameplay you've been watching so far, I've lost my touch probably from all the MOBAs I've been playing lately. You're probably watching mostly footage of other players' skills. After I die, I go into spectate and wait for the round to end. So you're mostly watching other people play the game. I've kind of lost it. Clan Arena was the game mode that had the most players in it. It was the only server that had the most players in it, aside from the duel mode, and that is DUEL, duel mode. This is the competitive Quake 3. This is competitive mode for this game. It's 1v1, and this is the competitive game mode that they still play. You know how, like in Dota, in Dota 2, there's captain's mode, and that's the mode they play when they play competitively. Well, yeah, that's duel mode. And now's where I want to talk about game modes. See, what you see before you is Clan Arena mode, and there are many game modes in Quake Live. But in this game mode, Clan Arena, you start each round with all of the guns available to you. You have all of the guns in your inventory. You have maximum ammo. You have maximum health, and you have maximum armor. There are no pickups. You don't need to worry about controlling the map and controlling the pickups that appear on the map. And the point basically in this mode is to eliminate the enemy team. Kind of like Counter-Strike Deathmatch. If you just have to kill the enemy team and then you win the round. But to me, the true Quake experience is a little bit different. In a deathmatch or in a duel game, which is the competitive mode, you start with just the one gun. You start with the machine gun, and you have your melee weapon, which is the gauntlet. The machine gun's not very good. It's useful, but it's not very good. And you start off with 100 points of health. Thereafter, it is up to you to jump around the map and collect weapons, collect ammo, collect armor and health to increase your survivability and to increase your firepower. These things can be found throughout the map. These pickups, they're all over the map, and they have timers. So if you pick one up, there is a set amount of time in which you have to go back to that area to pick up the armor, to pick up the health, or whatever it might be. So the difference between a good player, a good Quake player, and a scrub like me is knowing when that red armor or knowing when that mega health is about to spawn and positioning yourself to acquire it or fight off others to steal it from you. It's kind of like, I mean, I've been playing MOBAs lately, so I can liken it to a MOBA like Heroes of the Storm. It's about map control. You have to control the map. You have to control those spawn points of those pickups. There's also such things as quad damage, regeneration, haste, depending on the map you're playing. Each map is different, and knowing the layout of the map is key to playing this game competitively. Again, You won't see much of this game mechanic in this video because of the game mode I'm playing, but I just wanted to point out that pickup management is really what sets competitive Quake apart from the other FPS shooters out there. Another thing that sets Quake apart from other shooters, and another thing I love, is strafe jumping. Now, strafe jumping started out as a bug in the original Quake's code. In the original Quake, there was a bug in the code, and it was later kept as part of the game because of its competitive utility. People started using strafe jumping as a strategy, as a technique to gain the upper hand on their enemies. And strafe jumping, basically in a nutshell, is when you utilize one of the strafe keys, either A or D as default, along with a jump button, which is defaulted to space. I like to bind it to right click myself, along with your forward movement button. Now the game will add a unit vector in the direction you are strafing to your forward momentum. So it'll add the speed of the strafe and the jump to your forward momentum without normalizing your forward trajectory speed, meaning that if you don't deviate more than 90 degrees from your forward trajectory while managing to jump as well as strafe, you can far exceed the default running speeds. Now in Quake Live, as you can see on the screen right here, there's even a speedometer. They provide you with a speedometer to tell you how fast you're moving. How many other modern games have implemented a bug rather than squishing it? No other game has done this, as far as I know. Implementing an exploit of the code into the game because it was useful in the competitive atmosphere. It's amazing. The only other example I can think of right now is in the Tribes series. You know Tribes and skiing. The skiing mechanic in Tribes came from a bug, but I'll cover that in another video. Now, honestly, for me, Quake is the all-time greatest competitive multiplayer FPS out there. Even after 17 years of Quake 3 Arena, I would place it with Counter-Strike and the legendary FPS Hall of Fame if such a thing existed. Although, in my own opinion, Quake is the far better game. Battlefield is fun, Counter-Strike is amazing, fuck Call of Duty. I'm just putting this out there. Quake is the greatest FPS shooter ever made. I love it. I wish I was better at it, but I will never stop fragging. Quake Live is available on Steam for $100. That's in South African rands, or I guess $10. It's got Steam Workshop support, so the modding community is still there, making maps, making mods, all of that good stuff. And even though Overwatch is weeks away from release, and I'm pretty sure that's going to be a pretty sweet game, though I haven't played it yet, all I have to go on is footage that I've seen on YouTube, I still believe that Quake is the greatest FPS shooter ever made. This has been Tiki-Boxx. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think about Quake. Let me know what you think about the FPS genre in general in the comment section below. And as always, love and peace. And keep fragging. Cheers, guys.